ఈ అబ్బాయి ఫైనల్ ఇయర్ క్లాస్ కూడా అటెండ్ అవుతున్నాడు అన్న. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
So Abhishek, are you attending the final year class also?
No, ma'am. Just I attended at 10:30, but by that time you are taking final year class. I thought that is second year, but I just stay in the class only.
Okay, yeah. So because I saw your name even in final year, so I thought is there is another Abhishek or it's you who's attending final year class. Okay, no problem.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. So did you have a class before this, or this is the first class today?
This is the second class. We had chemistry class before.
Okay, you had chemistry. Okay, so we'll revise paleontology today. Okay,
Okay.
it's a small topic. With this, we'll finish embryology today. Yeah, let's start. So today we are going to study about paleontology or pollen biology. Okay. So what is paleontology? Paleontology is the science that deals with the study of pollen and spores. Paleontology is the study of pollen grains or spores. So this term paleontology was coined by the scientists Hyde and Williams in 1945. So pollen grains are also called as microspores, right? Because they are formed from microspore mother cell. We already studied this. So pollen grains are also known as microspores. These are the male gametophytes. They are the male reproductive bodies in the angiosperms. So spores, when we say spores, spores can be broadly applied to many plants all across the plant kingdom. Like in algae, you have zoospores, exospores, endospores, actinids. In fungi, you have many kinds of spores again, like ascospores, conidiophores, basidiospores, uridospores, right? And in pteridophyta also you have spores. But paleontology specifically deals with the study of pollen grains or microspores. So where do pollen grains come from? Pollen grains develop from the sporogenous tissue of the anthers. So we studied the transverse section of anthers. In between, inside the anther, we know that there is sporogenous tissue, and this sporogenous tissue will develop into microspore mother cells, and these microspore mother cells will again form pollen grains after meiosis, right? So this is how the pollen grains are formed, and the study of these pollen grains is known as paleontology. So when we look at a pollen grain, this pollen grain generally come in various shapes and sizes. Okay, two scientists called as Zetchi and Vicuri said that they discovered that the outer wall of pollen. So we all know that pollen wall has two layers: the outer exine and the intine. The inside one is intine. So these scientists discovered that all the pollen grains, they contain a substance called as sporopollenin. It is a pectinous substance. It is known as sporopollenin, and this sporopollenin is what helps the pollen grains to stay fresh and not decompose. So when we look at fossils, when the archaeologists try to dig caves and look into fossils, they find these pollen grains to be still intact. Okay, they are not degraded. They stand the test of time. So using these pollen grains also they get a lot of valuable information. Okay, so why these pollen grains are preserved in the fossils without getting degraded is because of the presence of this compound called as sporopollenin. Okay, this is very important for entrance examinations. Then when you look at the cytoplasm or the protoplasm of pollen grains, it contains a lot of substances like proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, vitamins, hormones and enzymes. And the food reserve is also present in form of small oil bodies. Okay, so when the pollen grain is released from the anther, it has to go and fall on the stigma of the flower, right? So until then it needs some food reserve. So you have some oil bodies in it which help the pollen grains to remain alive and remain viable. So apart from all these, the pollen grains also contain some inorganic substances like magnesium, potassium, calcium, copper, iron, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine. Okay, so pollen grain, though it may seem small, but it contains a lot of elements also in it. So when we look at the pollen wall is very complex. So we said that the pollen wall is divided into intine and exine. But when you again look at it, intine is again divided into ectointine and endointine. That is, intine is again divided into two layers. That is, the outer layer of intine is known as ectointine and the inner layer is known as endointine. Similarly, when you look at exine is also divided into the outer layer called sexine and the inner layer called nexine. So you have sexine, nexine, ectointine and endointine. If you closely look at nexine, again nexine is divided into nexine 1 and nexine 2. Okay, so in this way the cell wall is divided into many layers. So broadly you can remember them as exine and intine. Exine is divided into sexine and nexine. Intine is divided into ectointine and endointine. Okay, so when we look at the surface of the pollen grain, it is not very smooth. It has lot of spines or spikes. It has some undulations like this. It has irregular patterns like this. If they are very small in size, they are known as granules. If they are big in size, they are known as warts. Okay, so in this way the pollen wall is a very complex structure. When we look at the pollen grain size, the size of the pollen grains varies from 5 micrometers to 200 micrometers. Every plant has different sized pollen grains. Okay, so when we look at the pollen grains, for our convenience, we have made certain given certain terminologies to the pollen grains for our easy study. Okay, so when these pollen grains are generally present in the form of tetrads, when they are formed as a result of meiosis from the microspore mother cells. So when we look at the tetrad, the pole that is present towards the outside is known as the distal pole. The pole that is present towards the center of the tetrad is known as proximal pole. Okay, so if we take this pollen grain, the outside end is distal pole. The one that is present towards the center is proximal pole. The line that connects the distal pole and proximal pole is known as a polar axis. Okay, the line which connects the distal pole and proximal pole is known as polar axis. Okay, similarly you have many polar axes like that. For every pollen grain you have different polar axis, right? Yeah, so this is the polar axis which is touching your distal pole and proximal pole. The one which is perpendicular to the polar axis is equatorial axis. So polar axis touches the distal pole and proximal pole. 90 degrees to that is equatorial axis. So that way for a tetrad you can see every pollen grain has one polar axis and every pollen grain also has one equatorial axis. So depending on the size of these pollen grains, they can either be termed as minute, small, medium, large, very large, or gigantic. So if they are less than 10 micrometers in size, they are minute. If they are 10 to 24, they are small. 25 to 49, medium. So in this way, they have set certain parameters to call them minute, small, medium, large, very large, or gigantic pollen grains. Okay. So the pollen grains, as they come in different sizes, they also come in many different shapes. They can be circular, elliptical, triangular, rectangular. They can be in different shapes. Okay. Each plant has distinct shaped pollen grains to it. So these are all the different shapes of pollen grains that you find in different plants. So as we just discussed, these pollen grains have polarity to them. So we just discussed that the pole that is present towards the outside of the tetrad is distal pole, towards the center is proximal pole, and the polar axis is the hypothetical line that connects the proximal and distal poles. The line which is perpendicular to this polar axis is equatorial axis. Okay. So when we look at the symmetry of pollen grains, the ones which are perfectly circular or spherical, they exhibit radial symmetry. Radial symmetry meaning you can draw a line from anywhere. I mean any angle which is passing through the center of this pollen grain. It will divide the pollen grain into two equal halves. So such symmetry is known as radial symmetry. Next, they also exhibit bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry, you can only draw one axis which divides them into two mirror images or equal halves. Okay, so they can either exhibit radial symmetry or bilateral symmetry. Radial symmetry, it can have many axes which divide them into two equal halves. Bilateral symmetry, there is only one axis that divides into two equal halves. So when we look at the pollen grains have small pores on their surfaces. So depending on these surfaces, depending on the apertures present on the surfaces, pores are called as apertures. So depending on these pores, the pollen grains have been named. Okay, if there are no pores present, they are known as inaperturate or atrium. That is, they do not have any apertures. Okay, if there is a single pore, it is known as monotreme. Monotreme means there is only one aperture. Okay, in Pteridophyta and Bryophyta, mosses are bryophytes, ferns are pteridophytes. The single pore is present at the proximal pole. Right, we just saw what is proximal and what is distal pole. Right, so at the proximal pole, you generally find a pore in Pteridophyta plants and Bryophyta plants, whereas in flowering plants like we study, higher plants which belong to angiosperms, you see a pore present at the distal end. Okay, so these are all the different kinds of nomenclature that they give depending on the kind of pore. If you have a pore and surrounding that you have some patterns like this, it is known as pororate. Okay, if there is no pattern, it is porate. If you have an oval shaped, lens shaped pore, it is colpate. And with around that lens shape, if you have a pattern, it is colporate. Okay, and then you have three pores, then it is three porate. If there is pattern also, then three pororate. Right, if it is like this in the form of a triangle, it is trichotomocolpate because it has three edges to it. Right, if it has a division like this and some pattern, it is three zonocolpate. If it has spiral thickenings on the surface of the pollen grain, it is spiraperturate. If it has a pattern like this, it is pantocolpate. So you have different types of pollen grains and each of them have been given a name. So depending on the number, position and character of the kind of pores that are present on the surface of the pollen grain, there is a classification of pollen grains. Okay, so this was given by a scientist called as Ertmann in the year 1969 and it is still followed. This is known as NPC classification because it is based on number, position and character of the pores present on the surface of the pollen grain. So as we just discussed, if there is no pore present, it is known as atrium. If there is 1, 2, 3, depending on the number of the pores, they are named as mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, poly. If it is more than 6, it is poly. Okay, polytreme. If you have spiral thickenings on the surface of the pollen grain, it is known as anemotreme. Okay. Next, this is the number n part of it. When we look at the position of this pore, so it is, if it is present at the distal end, it is catatreme. If it is present at the both the ends, it is anacatatreme. If it is present at the proximal end, it is anatreme. If at the center of the pollen grains you have pores, it is zonotreme. If the pores are present in two lines, they are dizonotreme. If they are present all over the surface of the pollen grain, it is pantotreme. Okay. Similarly, character, the kind of pores, the shape of pores, depending on that also you have the nomenclature. If it is circular, it is leptotreme. We just saw if it is having three, if it is like this, like if it has three different small arms like this, it is it's trichotomocolpate. If it is lens shaped, it is colpate. If it is a single pore, it is porate. Right? If you have three patterns like this, colporate. If you have pores surrounded by design, it is pororate. Okay. So in this way, you have the classification of pollen grains depending on the number, position, and character of the pores present on the surface of the pollen grain. Okay. So you have a website called as Pollen Atlas, where they have classified all these pollen grains from different plants. So it is like a database of different pollen grains from different plants. Okay. So if you are interested, you can just go and have a look. You'll be amazed how many different kinds of pollen grains are present in the plant kingdom. Okay. So this is about your palynology. So it's a very small and simple topic which deals with the study of pollen grains. So there are many people who are just researching on pollen grains. So they do their research on palynology. Okay, so these pollen grains are the important things that you have to remember is palynology is the study of pollen grains, and they have something called sporopollenin that helps them to be preserved even in fossils for thousands and millions of years. They remain intact without being degraded because of the presence of sporopollenin. And these pollen grains have lot of proteins and carbohydrates and reserve food material inside them. They have some inorganic substances also. And when you look at the wall of the pollen grain, it contains of it is made up of two layers, that is exine and entine. Exine is again made up of sexine and exine, and the entine is made up of ectoentine and endoentine. Then you have to remember that they are named as minute or small depending on the sizes. Okay, the gigantic grains are the ones which are more than 200 micrometers in size. So polarity, we have distal pole, proximal pole. We have two axes, equatorial axis and polar axis. Polar axis is the one that touches your distal pole and proximal pole. Equatorial axis is the one that goes perpendicular to your polar axis. Shapes, they come in various shapes. Symmetry, they exhibit two types of symmetry. They are either radially symmetric or they show bilateral symmetry. So depending on the pores, they are divided based on the NPC system of classification, where N stands for number, P stands for position, and C stands for character. So they generally ask this NPC classification in examination. So it's better you be prepared with this and also with this diagram. Okay. So this is about palynology, and if you're interested, you can go to this website and just check what kind of pollen grains are present in different kinds of plants. Okay. Okay. So this is about our embryology. With this, we successfully complete embryology in online mode also. We already finished in offline mode. Now we finished it in online mode also. So I think, yeah, we covered everything in embryology. So if you have anything else that you want me to cover, you can tell me. One of you asked for anomalous secondary growth.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so we've already seen what is secondary growth, so we can directly go to anomalous secondary growth. Maybe tomorrow we'll try looking at anomalous secondary growth also. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. After that, if you have anything else, you can tell me. So
Okay.
syllabus is over in other subjects for zoology, chemistry. Syllabus is over.
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay. You're still trying to cover.
Yes.
Okay. And languages?
Languages they completed already. They completed in offline mode only.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Okay then. If you have anything else that you want me to teach also, you can tell me. But as of now, I think
Okay.
fourth semester, we are all, I think we have done it twice. So you should all be able to write your exams well. I'm hoping you'll write well and you'll be able to do it in a very effortless way because we studied over and over and over again the entire syllabus. So you should be able to
Yes,
write
ma'am.
it well. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
So okay then. So you can go and attend your other class. So tomorrow we'll again come back and look at anomalous secondary growth. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very
Okay then. Yeah. Bye.